Welcome everyone to another London class on TopstepTV. We do have Coach Ray here with us today. So if you're here for the first time, my name is Deeyana Angelo, aka Market Stoker D. I've been trading for 18 years now. 14 years out of that, I've been trading futures, specializing in some more alternative products. I have Coach Ray here with me. Coach Ray, good morning, good
Morning.
evening, I suppose. Can you tell people a little bit about you so they have an
Yeah,
idea?
absolutely. Yeah, so I've been unfortunately, well, not fortunately, I guess, but trading stocks and options probably for 25 plus years. And then I think of those 25 plus years, 10 of which I probably more on the future end, and I would say probably in the last five, uh, I guess, on more on the profitable side. So I wish I had found futures first, to be honest. Day trading stocks and day trading options was definitely a learning experience. And then obviously they have some day trading rules that kind of they implemented recently that kind of really compromise your ability to day trade stocks. And then options, it's its own little beast. You could be right on direction and wrong on the Greeks and end up losing. So futures, like I said, I wish I had found this earlier, although futures wasn't as well established as it is now, I think, as popular as it is now, I think. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, it's definitely getting a lot more popular now, especially with
Mm.
Topstep TV at
Yes,
150K
yes,
subscribers. Yeah, we're growing.
yes.
So, Coach Ray, what do you normally trade? So, just to get people very
Yeah,
familiar
so
with you.
I of late I've been really a fan of gold. Gold has been really, uh, uh, but I would say more of a commodities trader. And then again, thanks to your guidance there as well, uh, D. So I mainly trade crude oil and gold, and on a rare occasion, I will get into the equities, but I think mostly the slower movers, I would say, ES and YM. I don't do very well with Nasdaq because it brings out the worst of me as far as emotions go, and I haven't really been able to, I guess even with the 10 plus years that I've been trading futures, I really haven't been able to master the emotions that come in when I'm trading something like a Nasdaq, a very volatile kind of fast moving kind of market. So what do you do? Well, you do what you do well, right? And you move it to an instrument that resonates with your mind, and that's kind of what I've
Yeah.
done.
Well, because again, we spoke about this before when you came to me,
Mhm.
you actually had really good trading ideas, but either the stops weren't quite right or, you had a general idea of direction, but then you would get really frustrated when NASDAQ would just whip you out. So I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
let's change this because actually you look like you're a good trader. And as soon as I moved you, you had pretty much success immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got funded. You've been
yeah,
funded since then. I know
yeah.
that people are like, oh, yeah, this person had a live account for a year, but you've had yours like for almost 5 years
Yeah,
now.
ever since I passed. So once I passed, back when I, met you, I've had that same account since. So, yeah,
Longevity.
no, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I think it was like you said. I think it would happen within a month and a half
Yeah. Yeah.
of,
Very quickly.
your program, and I think it was kind of a surprise. I think at the time that I managed to pass the combine in a month and a half of mentoring. So,
It's one of those things. You find a trader who already knows what they're doing, you find the right product for them,
mhm.
and suddenly everything changes. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's all it takes. Obviously different people have different issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, whoever's been trading for a while, you already know what to do. You just, maybe there's a piece of the puzzle that's not quite right for that
Mm,
particular trader. So,
mm,
as a mentor, and you're a coach now too, right? So,
yes.
that's what we do. You try and fish for inefficiencies for a particular trader and you try to change that, right?
Right.
So, Bruno actually has a question for you. Did he
Sure.
start only with micros for years? Well, interesting. We didn't have micros back then.
No, we did not.
Yeah. So, no, it was minis.
Yeah,
Very
yeah. So I
difficult.
basically trade, and honestly, I was kind of a break-even trader, which was super frustrating
Yeah.
when I was trading the equities. I'd get into these nice runs, and then all of a sudden, I fall back into a rut, and then I couldn't get myself back to break even and not, basically not make any progress. But to be honest, I think if you're losing money now, the first goal that you should have for yourself is break even, right?
Yeah.
And then come to the next level. I think sometimes people want to go from losing to very profitable.
Yeah, I say zero to hero, you know.
Yes, zero
It's
to hero.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's because they have to learn the sustainable trading practices. That's what our VIP
Mhm.
program is all about, right? That's why
Mhm.
we're all here. And
Yep.
what we see constantly is that people are YOLOing. Now, we didn't have micros back then.
No.
All of you trading right now, you have an amazing advantage. Like imagine
Mhm.
when we all started out. There was just a mini. So when the volatility would come in, you would have two options, either stay out or increase your risk. There was
Right.
no other way to control your downside, right? But now we have micros. That's a really new thing. Micros only started, a few short years ago. And the amount of people who are not using that to that advantage is kind of staggering to me. It's like,
Mhm.
really? Like, why would you even go to full minis if Nasdaq is moving like 3,000 ticks per day, and you
Yeah.
think that on a 4.5K drawdown you can somehow
You'll be able to
manage to
survive.
trade minis? Yeah. Even
Yeah.
worse, they're trading 2, 3 NQs.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like, what are we talking about? So, Ray, let's talk about your VIP group, your Mindset Hunters.
Yeah.
How are
Yeah.
your peeps doing?
Well, I think we started out really strong, but then like everyone, I think that sometimes we have this I call it kind of a casino mindset, right?
Yeah,
All in, all out type of thing, and so we're kind of recovering from that, and again, it's very, I would say, apropos that I call my folks mindset hunters, because I think it's an underestimated indicator, and my humble opinion. We talk about all these strategies, we talk about all these things that support our trading, but the biggest indicator of all is between our ears,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
there's no strategy that's going to overcome any sort of psychological issues that you might be experiencing, whether it's moving into tilt when things aren't going right for you, or
Yeah,
maybe hesitating when the opportunity arises, but you're overwhelmed with fear of loss, or a whole slew of things come up. And honestly, I would say that the combine is kind of a journey in understanding yourself in many
yeah.
ways. So
And this is why it's so valuable to spend time in a combine getting to know yourself through different market states.
mhm.
Many people are like, I'm going to pass in 2 days. It's like, what does that
Yeah,
do for your skills? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't teach you sustainable trading practices. It doesn't teach you how you're going to behave on the bad days. You're relying on resets and YOLOing to get into the funded account. And then you get to a funded account and it's like, well, now what?
right.
Oh, now I'm going to do the same stuff that I did in a combine, which is not sustainable. Then they blow up and they go, oh, it's not working.
Not
It's
working.
like, yeah, I wonder
Or
why.
worse yet, I mean, they change their style, right? They don't
Yeah.
use the same method that they used when they passed the combine. And they said, okay, now that I've got past the combine, I can go back to the old ways, back to before I passed the combine.
Do they even know the old ways though? That's what I
Yeah,
want to know. Like, what is the old way? If you like, I have some people who have only been trading for a few months. Like, you don't
yeah,
have an old way. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
just,
yeah. That's true.
just use the combine. What it's there for? To learn,
Correct,
to have
correct.
experience. Trading in a pressure and high pressure environment, and
Hmm.
then you get into an even more high pressure environment where there's no reset. We can like beat this drum like a million times, and some people will listen, others won't.
Yeah,
And I found that there are a few issues. So we have the YOLOers who are actually generally pretty good at reading the market, but
yes,
the size kills them, right?
correct.
Then we have traders who are genuinely having issues with strategy.
Hmm.
So, their strategy to begin with is maybe not the best. So they would need to look at their trade locations and stuff rather than, oh, yeah, I'm just going to pass and hope for the best.
Right.
And then obviously you have the third kind, which to me is more rare, the ones that hesitate.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of difficult to sort out because if you're hesitating, there's a fear there. So I'll
Hmm.
maybe start with dealing with psychological traumas. Like yesterday, actually, I was talking about EMDR, which is this a way of dealing with psychological traumas by moving your eyes left, right, by following this ball on the screen and bringing up the psychological traumas. It's a known sort of neuroscientific way to get rid of traumas that we've had. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
we all create psychological traumas through trading, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So do you find the same things? Like, do you kind of categorize your people? It's like, this is the YOLOer, this is
Yeah,
the
well,
person who,
yeah. I mean, like I said, this group is a little bit different than the other group that I've had. Again, I think this is a little bit the group that I have here, and it's funny because one person I actually kind of called him on it because he was talking so much about equity, right? Because well, I made this amount of money, I made that amount of money. I said, well, I really don't care how much money you made. Did you follow whatever set of steps, right? Processes consistently because if not, then I'm not really that impressed,
exactly,
right?
yeah.
Right. And so he kind of took exception to the fact that I wasn't that. Well, one of the first things I have him do, I said, I don't want you to refer yourself anymore as traders. You're no longer traders. You have been dubbed risk managers.
Yeah.
That's the first thing, right? So I tell them you cannot use the word traders while we're in these coaching sessions. We're all risk managers, and we need to find locations where we can manage our risk before we take on any sort of trade, and that helps them, right? Because again, like I said, there's a little bit of a kind of I call it kind of a casino mindset, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to gamble to their goals, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
a lot of when I see that traders make a lot of references to dollars, I encourage them not to think about dollars and more about their strategies and processes, right?
Yeah, I
So,
encourage some of mine. So I had someone who did size down, so they followed what we were talking about in our live sessions, and
hmm,
then they're like, "Oh, I only made 80. I only made 100. Oh, I only made
yeah,
120." And I was like, "Hey, why don't we convert that to ticks and see
right,
how many ticks you actually took?"
right,
And once they did that, they were like, "Oh, whoa, actually, that's quite a lot of ticks." So,
yeah,
it kind of changes your mindset. And then I said, well, extrapolate, see how much that will be on a couple of minutes, and
right,
it's like 2-3 grand a day or something. Like it
yeah,
would completely change the equation, and yet you would still be doing the same thing. It would still be in the same number of ticks. It
yeah,
would still be the same, strategy. Nothing will change except you will be adding like a zero to whatever you're doing right now.
right, right.
So it's
And
it's a
I
big
told and
change.
I asked them the question. I said, look, if I looked at your equity curve and it was kind of you know, a heart rate or whatever,
Up
would
and
you
down
fund
like the
you?
horse drawers, as one of
Yeah,
one of my
it's like
other
a Jekyll
coaches.
and Jekyll equity curve, right? I mean, Jekyll and Hyde, like Jekyll and
Yeah,
Hyde equity curve. Would you fund yourself? I mean,
yeah,
if you were somebody
yeah.
looking at you as a potential person that they wanted to add to the team, would you fund someone that's got a equity curve that's kind of psychotic, right?
Yeah,
10,000
psychotic.
in
Yeah.
profit, negative 10,000 in profit, back and forth like that. Nobody was going to fund somebody like that, right?
Yeah, I
So
said this something similar to one of the guys who kept or girls. I'm still not sure whether Let's just call them they.
yeah,
Yeah, they kept going. Reset, and they only get 2 resets, but they would put themselves in a hole like on the first day. So it's like minus
hmm,
3K, and then
hmm,
nothing, 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 nothing. Then they would reset and another 3K. So I said, listen, you expect to get funded here, right?
right,
No one's going to touch you with a barge pole. Like I know I
hmm,
wouldn't as a risk manager.
hmm,
It's like your downside is just completely not controlled. Like
right,
why please, I said, try to take on what we're talking about, and
hmm,
if not, let's find somebody else who will make a concerted effort to actually make changes, right? That's what we're here
right,
for. But
right,
unfortunately, most people are like, they go into excuses. They're like, oh, I did
yeah,
this because of that, and I don't care why you did it, just stop.
right,
Like,
right, right, right.
just stop doing it.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I think one of the misconceptions is that people think that they need to pass the combine fast,
yeah, yeah,
right?
you don't
I
exactly.
need to get this passed in 3 days. I need to get into my extra pay account.
Yeah.
And I go, well, so we get to the extra pay. Now the resets mean that's much more, right? right? And then you
Exactly. Yeah.
eventually want to get funded. Well, again, do we want to see equity curves go up and down,
Yeah.
gyrating like that? No one's going to fund you that way.
Yeah.
So
It needs to be
we need to figure out a
smoother
way.
as much as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get to the smooth positive slope
Yeah.
in
I
the
mean,
upward
it's not
direction.
always going to be like that, but if all of your P&L curve is up and down, up and down, up and down, obviously that's not good. So we need to
Mm.
aim for less variability in the
Yeah,
P&L curve. I
yeah,
had one guy that made like over 7K the first day, and I was like, what are you doing?
yeah,
Like, you're just
yeah,
making your job awfully difficult. Like,
yeah.
no one's going to reward you
No,
for YOLOing it in a combine and overshooting
mm-mm,
target by $1 million. It's
no,
like, just follow the rules. Let's just do this properly. And I
yeah,
can see that he's still doing that. Like the other day, I looked
yeah,
at the stats that they've provided for us, and he
yeah,
was like, up and down like 10,000. One day he was minus 36,000. And I'm like, how do you
yeah.
even get to that point? Like, what size? Like, he must be trading like 10, 15 lots or something.
Right,
And he's
right.
not on Discord. He's not like, there's no way to reach them. But it's like, I
Yeah,
can't, I can only do so much as a coach. Most
right,
people who are in there, they want to learn.
right.
But you'll always have a few kind of wayward sheep, as I like to call them, that will still be doing stupid things. And,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And it's a shame because it's such a great opportunity. They've been
Mm-hmm,
given all of us as coaches. We're all
mm-hmm,
incredibly competent,
mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like a wasted opportunity almost. So yeah, I think as we kind of go forward, I think maybe some rule changes will happen to ensure accountability and to ensure that they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, which
Right,
would make the VIP program even more valuable, right? But
absolutely.
it's still new. We're still kind of finding our feet and
Yeah,
how
yeah,
how to do things. All right,
yeah.
Ray. So talk to me what you see today, if anything, on gold. What's your general plan, even if you don't
Yeah,
see
I,
an
I mean,
obvious
I
trade?
honestly, I mean, London is not a normal session. I
I know. Yeah.
normally trade
Yeah, it's okay.
the New York, right? But and the gold has been actually quite nice instrument to trade of late because once it picks a direction,
It goes. Yeah.
set, fasten your seatbelts because you're in for a pretty good ride, right? So right now, I mean, I'm kind of looking at this, and I'm kind of looking at kind of another eye on my. I'm just really looking for a place, a reference area, whether it's VWAP or maybe a supply zone from on the upper time frame. I mean, I see right now, gold is coming up on, and 15 minute is not necessarily an area that I would look at, but if I'm coming up on this area here up above, say 29.55, well, I see that we had sellers here before, right? And it sold off.
Yeah.
Now we've had a pretty strong, move to the upside. So I would say, well, if we're in range, which we spend 80% of the time in the market, this area right here might not be a bad area to fade
Yeah.
potentially, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
an
kind of what I
intraday
would,
supply. Yeah.
yeah, this
Yeah.
would, yeah, again, we had this move down and now we come back to it. Well, or whomever brought it back down, chances are they're back here somewhere, right? They're not necessarily, they may be wanting to add to their position potentially here, at least the first time.
Yeah.
I like looking at this level maybe in a slightly higher time frame. I would say maybe a 30, maybe an hour, 4 hour. That means a little bit more to me. But certainly a 15 minute is not to be underestimated either, right? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Especially
looking
out
at
of
this.
hours. Especially out
Yeah,
of hours, because it's technically an out of hours session for gold.
yeah. So right here, I mean, you see a little bit of a selling wick, right? Indicating that the momentum to the upside is slowing down a bit. So up here might be an area where we maybe can take it back down to the lows. I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, and I'm looking at copper here on the left. So
Yeah, I'm looking at copper as well. I've been trading copper quite a bit, actually.
yeah,
So gold does have, interestingly, does have some call resistances around 29.55, which is where they kind of stopped last time.
yeah,
So if they want to push through that, I would want to see it above 29.55, and
hmm,
obviously some sort of a. Let me see the profile as well. Copper has been really directional, though. I love it. So maybe some kind of an initial balance extension as well above that, and then maybe a test of the same 29.55 area would be an option. But yeah, I do agree that until that happens, this is a problematic area from all sorts of ways. So
Right.
intraday supply, Asia high as well, because we had made basically Tokyo made a high just above that. So yeah, it would be a dangerous, like for example, this for me would be a bad trade location for longs, right?
Correct.
If we do need to go long, I would like to see it maybe below this entire structure. And
Yeah.
let me just switch to my screen. So I wrote I drew these couple of lines a while back. This was a former supply. We have broken it and we actually tested it from the upside. And, at some point, if we can break this intraday area, yes, we might have room up to the next available supply at 2962.5 and obviously towards that 3K that everybody's eyeing for. Everybody's been eyeing for such a long time, but it's just not coming. So yeah, I would also be bullish on gold, but not here. So I would like to see some sort of a pullback. Copper, on the other hand, has been pretty bullish, and if I look at it from a very large time frame, it's effectively broken through the nearest high. So let me see if I can. I've got the chart executions there. So yeah, it's broken through the previous day's high, not the previous day, sort of the supply that we had in force before yesterday. And I was actually in on one of my accounts on that. However, I did a long crude oil swing trade. Yeah, so yesterday on this particular combine and in my live account, I only did one trade. It was crude oil long, and I held it for good half of the day. So you can see here. So I went 66.58, and then I took it off. Yeah. So yeah, it was a kind of an obvious trade considering where we came from the weekly chart. And I'm not a huge fan of crude oil these days because it can be a little bit quiet. But once we're at these like really pivotal levels, I even have an option trade as well running, so which I'm going to keep a little bit longer because I'm kind of expecting it to keep going. We'll see though. We're kind of coming into rollover, so that's probably going to be done in a couple of days. But yeah, just where we came from. Let me just get rid of the chart executions because it's like making everything really messy. Okay, that's better. Go back to crude. So from the weekly chart, we were at the bottom of that entire range.
Yeah.
And touched it, already reacted there. And I was like, well, that's a good area for a swing, right? We have like a whole bunch of demands. There's an obvious range there. So why not try it? And I didn't have a small stop on it either. Like it was like a 65 tick stop because I didn't want to get whipped out and I wanted to give it time to work. And yeah, I actually went to lunch to meet someone and just kept it all the way through, really drama free. And I was like, okay, that's nice. So yeah, it was literally one trade, 1100 yesterday.
Very nice.
Look at the analytics.
Very
So yeah, so whoever says, oh, you can't trade, then there you go, one trade. One single trade on one mini. That's all I did. So whoever is thinking that you have to do 1 million trades per day and outperform the market and all of that, like you can have quality trades where, I always say quality over quantity. So I'm not super impressed when, people come to me and they go, oh yeah, I did 40 trades a day and they're relatively new traders. I know there's someone in the chat called Short Live Hacks. Now he's a proper scalper who's worked in the industry forever and he does scalp, but he says, well, I actually have an algorithm for it. I don't do it manually. And he actually made a point that if you're going to be a scalper, that you actually need a sample size of over 10,000 trades to see whether there's an edge there.
Wow.
So, yeah, imagine that. Because I say about, 50 trades or maybe 100 over 3-month periods. So it's like time plus number of trades. But he just went, no, like you need over 10,000 trades. Then you'll know whether you have an edge. And it's sort of, it makes you think, doesn't it? If you want to be a scalper, where will you be after 10,000 trades? Like most people cannot even get through 2 days or 3 days before messing it up. How are you going to
Right,
get,
right, right.
you know?
Before they want to change
Yeah.
everything.
So it's like your edge doesn't even work over a week, let alone
Yeah.
any sort of length of time where you're going to generate 10,000 trades.
Yeah.
So it's something to think about. You know, whoever is aiming to be scalpery, I think a lot of scalpers are coming from inexperience where they can't find a good trade location, so they kind of keep trying to catch smaller bits. That's not what scalping is, at least not for me. What are
No.
your thoughts on that, Ray? How do you approach people who are very scalpy?
Well, I guess what the thing that I'm kind of thinking of is, I think that maybe understand, I guess, the motivation for it, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, um, I tell them all the time. I said, look, when we talked about the rabbit and tortoise, right? Who won the race?
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
give
Yeah.
them little analogies like that, right? I said, look, and there was obviously sometimes a little bit of a misconception. I've worked with people and said, well, I need to be done with this combine in a month. I said, who said that you had to be done in a month? Who
Yeah.
said that you had to secure this in a month? I said, well, doesn't your account go away if you don't secure your account in a month? No, on the contrary, they want to be able to rebill you, right?
Yeah.
So
No, they want money now.
yeah, they want money now. There's no, I
Yeah.
mean, I understand the motivation to
Yeah.
gotta maybe you don't want to get billed again, right?
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
that, but so yeah,
Oh,
no,
that's funny.
I think there's maybe some misconceptions. I think in the combines a little bit. I
Yeah.
think this notion of kind of getting rich quickly, I think also comes into play, and I think that's why maybe scalping attracts people because they know they can, they have the adrenaline rush of potentially booking profits quickly, right? There's very few industries outside of being a doctor or a lawyer that kind of can kind of book that kind of money, right? So I
Yeah.
think those kinds of things come into play a little bit. So
Dopamine rush. Yeah.
yes,
So you're not,
yes,
yeah, they think they're chasing one thing, but really they're chasing the pleasure from
correct,
getting. Yeah. I
correct.
I am planning to get Jerome D on here at one point because
Okay,
we had a very, very big discussion. He was in chat and he really contributed to the topic of the day, which was dopamine rush and
yeah,
problems with the baseline after you reach a goal, and the fact that the urge that you feel when you pass the combine to trade the new XFA, which is why we see people, opening a 10 lot trade at Globex Open on a Sunday. That's
hmm,
why, right? You get this
yeah, yeah.
urge and motivation and productivity increase, but that spells over trading and death to the account for traders.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
the amount of people who don't understand that is quite
Yeah,
quite interesting.
yeah.
Jake Sharrock has a question for us. He says, I have developed a strategy and backtested 3 months worth of data and
Mm,
can see that it is profitable. However,
mhm.
I'm struggling to stay out of the market once that specific trade is finished. Any tips for managing this? Difficult
Yeah,
one.
I mean, I would say that again, what's the motivation? What is driving you to want to be back in the market?
It's
What
going to
is
be
it that you're,
dopamine. It's going to be
yeah,
like,
what
let's
is it
get
that you're
more.
trying to achieve? Because I mean, a lot of the traders, and you know this as well, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, little
I want
spiky
more.
chocolate.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
oh yeah, it happens this time of the day. This is why I like
oh,
trading
okay.
copper this time. I am kind of waiting for it to show its teeth. So, do we have anything? We sometimes have a release around here.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just check my calendar
Yeah.
quickly just to figure out what the hell that was. Um, we sort of had a minor number. I don't think that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like this was just technical. Whoops.
Yeah. All of a sudden, a flurry of
My
activity.
charts and everything just disappeared. Okay. Can you still hear me? Oops. Oops, oops, oops. Hold on just a minute. Can you still hear me, Ray?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, my computer just decided to, well, Chrome decided to explode on me.
Oh
So I
no.
do apologize. It literally just killed everything apart from the OBS stream. So it's still here,
Okay.
but I couldn't
Okay.
see you. You couldn't hear me. So
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
yeah, it just disappeared for a minute, but I think we're
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, we had a minor number, nothing to cause the pop in copper. So I think this was a technical
Okay.
pop.
Okay.
Straight into
Yeah, yeah. I
HVL.
guess coming back to the comment earlier, I
Yeah.
mean, professional traders, right? Professional traders have levels that they've identified on the market, and they don't spend all their, waking hour in front of the platform, right?
Yeah.
So they do their business and they walk away,
Yeah.
right? These are professional traders,
Yeah.
people who are managing millions and millions of dollars, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So they don't have an urge to get back in the market, right? They've done their business for the day and they move on and live their lives, right?
There's
So
also there's also a thing with like if you're a CTA, and I've said this in the VIP group that I'm in, if you are a CTA, you actually have to explain every single trade that you took.
Mhm,
Like you have to
mhm,
strategize and explain to the investors why you were in this
right,
in the beginning. That's why a lot of the CTAs are pretty conservative, right? So
right,
they will be maybe running some swings based on a macro picture, and yeah, they might do a couple of intraday trades here and there, but it's not
yeah,
going to be like let's do 40 trades today. it's like
yeah.
it's like
And
dude,
especially if they feel like they've hit their whatever, I don't know if they have profit targets, but if they
probably
reach
yeah,
whatever, daily profit targets, they really
yeah,
don't have any motivation. And I think just to your point, if they have to account or explain why they've taken a trade, well, that puts a little bit of a wrinkle as to how many trades they want to take to begin with, because
yeah.
you have to explain to whoever is watching their account why they took the trade at the time they did
Yeah.
and
There's
things of that
also the issue of brokers thinking that you're churning. So if you have investors and you do like a lot of trades intraday, and yet your
nature.
P&L curve is not really growing,
Yeah,
that will be a signal for them to investigate you for churning, because it means that you're potentially taking commissions from clients and not actually
right,
generating any meaningful profits, which
right.
would be in your favor if you're an IB, right? If you're an introducing broker, you get
Yep.
a cut of the commission. So it's like, what
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the motivation here? So,
yeah.
people need to be very careful when they're like, there's one person who came to me who was like, how do you journal 300 trades a day? And I was like,
I don't. I
and
don't
he
think that's
tried to sign up for one of my things, and I'm like, if you think that I'm going to be looking at 300 trades a day, think again, man. Like I'll
mm-hmm,
give you your money back, like right now. It's
mm-hmm,
like no.
mm-hmm.
So there's a different sort of outlook, and maybe there's a misconception that if you're a scalper, you will make money and stuff. The problem with scalping is that your system is generally based on you being right most of the time, because typically
Yeah,
scalping systems will always have a higher accuracy and lower risk reward. Most scalpers will be like 1 to 1, 0.8 to 1, and that
mm-hmm,
means you immediately have to have high accuracy. But here's the problem: as soon as that accuracy starts to bleed below sort of 60%, 56%, you start to lose money.
yeah,
So those systems are generally not as stable over time as the ones that we see as people like having higher risk reward, like the quotas of the world. Like I think you have a higher risk reward, so do I.
yeah,
We're basically able to stay stable and not lose accounts for a very long time, even if we're underperforming, because we will still be profitable. So it's
right,
like, it's one of those things. What are you comfortable with? Are you okay with being less right and taking a hit on
mm-hmm,
your ego,
mm-hmm,
but still being profitable? Like what matters to you, being right or making money?
right,
To me, it's like I have to be profitable. So it doesn't matter that I want to do more trades in a day.
yeah,
If that's not what gives me results over very long periods of time, I'm going to think twice clicking the button. So, for me, I would say to Jake, find a hobby. Find a
mm-hmm,
hobby, find something that will keep you away from the screens.
mm-hmm,
Once you've had that winning trade that was according to your strategy, just make yourself walk away. Click the lockout button, right? So we
yeah,
have the lockout button. Use that to keep you away. right? It's like, I'm done for the day. Make an executive decision to end your trading day and go
Right.
live your life. Like Ray says, go live your life,
Right.
do something else. Spend
Yeah.
time with your family, spend time with your dog, with your cat. Go do cooking lessons, go
Yeah.
learn how to play guitar, like anything to keep you away
Right.
from the actual market, right? So, sitting there clicking buttons, that's just your dopamine rush saying, yes,
Mm-hmm.
more, yes, more. I want more of that. That feels good.
Yeah.
You can't fall prey to that. As a
No.
trader, you have to be very in tune with your own self.
Yeah.
What is my mind doing? Am I in a fight or flight response mode? Am I in a dopamine rush mode? Am I getting a bit depressed because my dopamine levels are now out of whack because I've just lost an XFA? That happens too. People
Yeah.
get horribly depressed. They're like, I had an XFA, and then a dopamine rush goes, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm really depressed now. Like, you can't be on an emotional roller coaster and do this job for years. You have to find a way to stabilize yourself, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a miserable existence. It's not good,
Yeah.
right?
No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. I see we have Jerome D in here. So
Oh, okay.
he's
Hey, Jerome.
here. So yeah. So we're gonna try and get him in a couple of weeks' time. Maybe on next week if we can do schedules and stuff, but we'll see. Yeah. Jake says, I watch Topstep TV and get FOMO when Dakota and alike take trades that exponentially outweigh my trades in minutes. Okay, so I will say this. Dakota is at a very different point in his life than you, okay, as a trader. He's been trading seriously for about 15 years, but he actually started messing around with the markets when he was 9. We had him on here. He talked about it. When he was 9, he didn't know what he was doing, but at 9 years old, he was like, this is interesting to me. I want this. I want this. So when you're staring at the market since you're 9 years old, and then at about 15, 16 years of age, you actually start trading, by the time you're 31, you're an expert. You're an expert, especially if you're the Dakotas of the world, right?
Yeah.
So he's not your regular trader who just kind of started trading yesterday and he sort of figured out he's got so much experience. Just because he looks like a boy, he's he is younger, but he's not that young. He's 31, right?
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind, guys, when you see Dakota making, thousands and thousands a day, because if you just put a face of an older man who's like in their 60s. That's what Dakota is on the inside.
Yeah. He's cataloged a lot of hours.
Yeah, he's logged a lot of hours. He's very mature, and he's very emotionally resilient. Nothing really phases him much. That's an unusual trait to have. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you're feeling like, oh, his trade eclipsed mine, again, convert it to ticks. Ask him how many ticks did you take. So convert it to your side of things, right? Okay,
Right.
I've traded micros. He took, 30 points out of NASDAQ, maybe 200 on some days when he's got a very smashing trade. Well, how much is that in micros? Let's have a look. So 200 points in NASDAQ, 0.5, that would be $100. But because he's trading 5 lots, right? That's like 5 times 5, 25 sometimes, right? Times 200, that ends up being $5,000. But the $100 in micros on a 1 micro and 200 ticks on a micro is $100. Same 200 ticks on a 5 NQ mini is $5,000. But it's the same trade. So that's how you need to look at it. Not like, oh my God, he's a clip with trade. How many ticks was it? And he always tells you how many ticks he made. He's very fair that way. Yes, he's made several thousand, but it's like, he always says, I just took 100 ticks. I just took 30 ticks. I just took this. He always tells you things in ticks.
Yes.
So use that, right? Ticks are everything. Ticks are life, right?
Yes. And if you're having issues, right, with maybe some emotions around fear of loss or fear of missing out, that's actually a good, remove all references on your chart from dollars. And that's a good way to allow you to stick to your processes, right? So
ticks or points, whichever one floats your boat better. I like ticks because
yourself in the dollars a little bit.
Completely. No, I would say completely, because I actually in my private coaching, I actually forbid people to talk about dollars. You know this, right? It's like, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
care
yeah.
how many dollars you took because everybody has different accounts.
Correct.
I just want to know how many ticks you took and how many ticks you risked.
Right.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Whatever the outcome was, as long as you're not oversizing like a lunatic, which again
Yeah.
is a different problem,
Right.
I don't care what size you were in. You were in with the appropriate size that we agreed, and
Yep.
ticks is all that matters. Risk rewards, was it 1-to-1? Was it 0.8? Was it 1.3? Whether that was $5,000 or $5, I couldn't care less, and it doesn't
Yeah.
impress me to see, oh yeah, I've made thousands, and then you go and lose it the next day. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, great, well done. All right, so Paul H says, good morning, Coach Ray and Marcus
Oh,
Tokadi.
there's
Can
Paul.
you, yes, Paul, yes, he's been here with us. Can
Yeah.
you guys explain why 1 or 2 trades and done is better than keep going until you reach a profit target? 5 days of 200 better than 1 day 1,000 as a target.
Well,
Okay.
I would say that I think it kind of leads to the consistency that we're
Yeah.
trying to get you to, right?
Yes.
If you come into the market not looking to reach any sort of number as far as dollar amount or trade or what have you, that puts you in a much better position to allow your mind to get to a plus setup.
Yeah.
And so putting all these factors aside, when I tell my traders all the time, I said, look, you really only need to take 1 to 2 good trades a day, 2 to 1 to 3 to 1 risk. And, and that's what we should be focused on. Some of these
Yeah.
trades become singles. I always use baseball references when I talk about
Same.
this,
Yeah.
right? You start off and you say, okay, well, I'm only looking for, a 2 to 1 trade here. And sometimes these 2 to 1 trades will turn into a 4 to 1 trade,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But the trade location has to be pretty right. And, for
Correct.
example, my crude oil trade obviously went much more than I initially planned it,
Yeah.
right?
But you were at daily levels. You were at
Yes,
daily demand
weekly.
levels,
Weekly.
right? Yeah.
Not just
Yeah.
daily, weekly levels. So
Weekly
that
levels,
trade
right?
location
So,
bounce from a weekly level is what enabled me to hold a trade for like 7 hours.
correct.
Otherwise, if I was using an intraday level, that would probably be a single. That wouldn't
Yeah.
be, well, I'm shooting for the moon here. No,
Correct.
the day type has to match. The trade location on a large time frame has to be right. So for me, whoever is doing, smaller, consistent wins over 1 or 2 trades per day, and then keeps going, being very selective with what they do, and they take a chunk of the trend for the day, like Mick from the risk team is always preaching that you should be doing. That person will have more consistency in the long run than somebody who's just sitting there clicking buttons, 40 trades, 50 trades. Oh yeah, I'm kind of up on the day. To me, that's like a very slippery slope unless you have a ton of experience and you really know where your edge lies.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. Obviously, there are people who do it, but just beware that some of the best scalpers in the world, some of them we see on TopstepTV, like Nick for a Tick, for example, he only does about 3-4 trades a day. He doesn't do
Right.
40.
Right.
And you ask him, well, Nick, are you trading now? He's not clicking buttons all day. He's just saying, no, actually, I'm just watching.
Yeah.
So he's a selective scalper. And when he does
Yeah.
see his setup, takes his like 20 points in NQ or whatever, or ES, whatever he's trading now. But that is the point, right? He has a setup, star setup. He waits until it appears. He takes it. He snipes it. He's done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's a scalper, right?
Yeah. And again, I think that's a lot. I think one thing that we all can take away with, especially if you're an aspiring or want to be consistent, notice how many references people are making about taking 1 to 3 trades, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The trader, again, that's kind of why I come back to this idea of don't look at yourself as a trader, because a trader implies you need to trade.
Yeah.
A risk manager doesn't trade. They wait for
Yeah.
levels, they wait for opportunities to come their way, and then they seize the opportunity. I think that's kind of a mind shift that we
It
all need,
is.
especially
Identity
those that are
shift.
aspiring to become
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
Right?
Identity shift. I'm not a trader. I'm a risk manager. Yeah.
Correct.
It's much better. We have a question about natural gas. I haven't actually looked at natural gas recently because we're kind of in a time of the year. I think we're going to be rolling contracts as well. And the demand for natural gas around about this time of the year typically tends to be a little bit sketchy until the summertime. But we can have a look. So let me just see if I change to my screen. Okay, so natural gas. Weekly chart, kind of distributing. Don't really see much there. Yeah, I mean, even on the daily chart, it looks like it's kind of starting to range a bit. Not to say that there won't be an intraday trade, but generally London tends to be, on most days, it tends to be really quiet. So it's a bit of a non-event natural gas for this time of day. I think Asia is a little bit more active than London. I mean, yeah, no, even Asia wasn't that. Like these are tiny, tiny ranges. So for now, I don't think there's anything in natural gas. I am going to have a look at some options activity there, just to figure out whether there's anything interesting that we can kind of fall back on. Do you see anything, Ray? Have you looked
Yeah,
at
and I was just going to
natural
say, I
gas?
mean, it does, like you said, I mean, I think there's a little bit of momentum that's maybe we're losing here a little bit on the daily. I mean, if the nice thing I would say is that we are coming into maybe some daily levels, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
That
there's a
could,
range. I
right?
can't see a range. Yeah.
Yeah, so that could offer us a bounce, and you know, it's always nice to be at a daily level with some indication that it's going to reverse away from it, because that gives a little bit of wind behind our sails in our
Yeah.
interday trade. So, but I think the thing, like Dee mentioned here, it does seem that the uptrend is slowing. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. If we start to break some of these daily levels, then maybe we can, maybe it starts to maybe creep down to 3, I guess. That's kind of what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
So we do have some put supports. There was former put support from 0DT yesterday at 410. And then some GEX levels. GEX 3 is at 405. GEX 1 is at 4 evens. So right now we're sort of wedged between 405 and 410. Maybe shorts from 410, maybe if you can get it, but yeah, for now I don't really see a setup. This is very quiet. So now I'm a
Yeah.
30-minute chart and it's just nothing. Like I wouldn't trade anything that looks like this. Because it's just like, it's barcoding, right? And it's been doing that since 2 a.m. my time, and now it's like 9. So since 2 a.m. it's done very, very little. Just
Yeah.
going one up, one down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up,
Yeah.
down, up, down. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. It's
that would
only
be
not
very
a trade I want
painful.
to see for sure.
No. And volume, I mean, look at the volume. It's just
Yeah.
non-existent. I would wait for any opportunities on natural gas for the actual regular trading hours. So once NYMEX opens in a few hours, you can have a look at that. But for me, that's a no. Let me
Gold is starting to
look.
make a little push.
Yeah, usually around about 10 my time, so in about 20 minutes or so, usually you see a pretty decent push.
Yeah.
It's a little bit messed up now because we have the daylight savings thing. So obviously, usually I'm looking at my 11, but now because you guys have had the daylight savings, everything starts a little bit earlier. So my 11 is now 10. And it's like, they start to wake up around 10 o'clock my time. So it's usually you can see this increase. Effectively, the overlap starts at that time. Trading Nickel says copper popped because it just broke its own is down channel. Careful though, fake out or going for it. Well, what will the market do? So this is where looking at order flow and things like whether it's sustaining, where this move is coming from. So for me on copper, we popped up to an HVL and I would expect to see some reaction there. It already did it. We have VWAP in the way from Globex. And for now, this is still a potential for longs, but we are inside value right now. So we're kind of trying to rotate through it. However, we do have a couple of areas, so 484 and 485, that are a little bit problematic because that's the market maker territory. I am still bullish on copper. I would still be looking for longs until the market shows me change of sentiment. Right now, I don't see a great setup because I didn't want to see this kind of a pop, but we'll see. If it doesn't fail the auction, and if in about 8 minutes we are still slightly above initial balance, I might try a long. But one of my rules is to not get involved until we have the initial balance extension. Every time I do, it's a slower trade. It's a, messier situation. So I'm going to wait. This is where TPOs come in. Ray, you know how I trade. You know that I don't like doing the initial balance, inside initial balance trades. So let's see what it does in 8 minutes. And if it's still hanging, then that's the trade that I want to take today.
Yeah, I mean, speaking. I see I do see that on copper now. Trying to get above the initial balance in London.
Yeah, it's really trying. Yeah, but again, until it is sustained above the initial balance,
right,
it's a little bit tricky because it can still fail the auction and rotate, and then get back down to GEX2 and London value low around 480, and it's like, great. Now I've had a losing trade, and I didn't wait for my rules, which is the worst thing to
gold looks a little
do.
cleaner. The thing that kind of jars me is seeing that selling wick on copper. That kind of jars me a little bit. But
yeah, they're kind of correlated, but they're not like 70-80%. I would say on most days they would probably be about 50-60% at most. And then copper, it kind of has a mind of its own. So it will be, it's very sensitive to inflation.
yeah.
It's actually, I don't know whether you read this, but a lot of people from sort of the institutional side of things, they're thinking, oh yeah, is copper the new oil?
Oh,
So they're using it to hedge portfolios against inflation rather than gold, which is kind of interesting to me, right? It's like, well, I don't exactly know what the thoughts are behind it. Is it because gold is so expensive now? So they're like, no, let's go to copper instead. So I don't know, but I've definitely seen a kick up in copper activity over the last year or so. And it's been beautiful. Once it decides on its direction, it's kind of like gold, right? It just keeps going.
I love those types of instruments.
Me too. They're much easier. They're very conducive to people who look for swing trades rather than, little scalpy moves. And you can make so many ticks
and it's
from those.
easier on your mental capital, which I
Much
enjoy.
easier. Yeah. You put it on, walk away, come back.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're not trading at all. You're just like running a single thing, living your life, and then also making money. It's like almost passive income, almost.
and that's I think a good indication. If you can't walk away from your trade, you're probably trading too much size.
Yeah.
Right? If you can't glue your eyeballs to the platform, then you're probably trading too much size, right? So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You say it well. If you can't walk away from your desk, you're trading too much size. You have so many good analogies. So, I absolutely love that. You have the whole analogy of consolidation and sipping margaritas at a level. It's like we're not going anywhere. We're just hanging. We're mingling, having margaritas. And, it's like so good. Then the Bigfoot analogy that you have, Dalton calls them adults. Hug your view up. Yeah, it's so good. It's amazing. I love hearing you say those. So Trader Nichols also has last night, Dakota talked about the toxicity that he feels sometimes, the pressure of not trading setups in slow markets. So he's still live for the fast markets, hitting the punching bag at the gym when losing. Yeah, so look, I used to be, before I got sick, I used to be a competitive bodybuilder. Precisely for the same reason. Now, back then I wasn't on TopstepTV, so I didn't have schedules to think about. But yeah, so there is this, added pressure that if you mess it up in your main part of the day, like for example, for me, it would be London. If you have a segment later on in the day, you have to be mindful that you still have some money in there to trade, right? It's not like, oh yeah, definitely you have to not hit your daily loss limit, but it's not great to just go, oh yeah, hit my daily loss limit. And then you come to do the segment and you're like, well, I can't trade now. So anyways, I'm just going to sit here. And there's definitely, an extra bit of pressure that causes you to change the way you're, as if trading is not hard enough, right? You now also have to change it to fit around the schedule of TopstepTV, right? So this is something that we face as on-air people. This is also why you will see many of us trade in combines. It's just extra bit of mental capital that you want to keep for a certain part of the day, and
Right.
obviously your actual equity for the day too.
Right.
But whenever, I used to get really frustrated in trading, I used to go to the gym, and, I actually did do boxing at one point as well. But then one time I forgot the wraps, and I had a bad day, and I really kind of went nuts. So my hands were all like bloody and stuff and everything. So after that, I was in so much pain for about a week after that. I decided that that's probably not the best choice. So either like bring your wraps or just don't do boxing. So I started lifting weights pretty heavy, and this is where I went into bodybuilding side of things, because I got to a point where I actually really enjoyed getting rid of the frustration that way,
Hmm.
and it helped me a lot. I actually miss it so much. But physical exercise can definitely help you get rid of the trading gremlins or get rid of the frustration away from your P&L.
Right.
Some people get frustrated and they start clicking even more buttons. So what are
Right.
they doing? Shoveling adrenaline into your P&L. Go
Hmm.
shove adrenaline into something else.
Correct.
Something that's physically designed to get rid of fight or flight response or any kind of
Hmm.
frustrations. And that's
Hmm.
physical activity. We can't get
Yeah.
away from that. Ray, do you do anything? I mean, I know that you're not exactly someone who, like, Ray is very calm, and I'm sure you do get frustrated sometimes.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, so what do you do when you're like feeling a little bit, annoyed
Yeah.
with the
Well,
markets?
I would say again, one of the things that I used to do quite a bit before I trade was meditate.
Right. Okay.
To get kind of our mindset in a proper place. Because sometimes you have things that might be going on in your personal lives, right? And you bring that to the markets, and you're still thinking about that, what's going on in your personal life. And you bring that into your trading. Well, that's going to impact your ability to decide and make decisions, right? You need the best version of yourself when you trade. And one of the ways that I found to help pre-market was meditation. Now, if I get myself in, and it happens to me on a lot less now than I did before, but yeah, nobody likes losing, right?
Yeah.
Nobody likes losing on the trade, especially if you feel like you've done a ton of analysis and you feel like, okay, well, it should do this. The market doesn't have to do anything,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
We're basically replacing our probabilities that this particular set of events will take place. But in situations like that, the best thing, I mean, I've grown to the point where I'm disciplined enough to walk away. And physical exercise, going on a hike, things like that actually help me come back to the market in a much better frame of mind, right? And I think that's very important that you have some outlet to allow you to get your back on track. Because if you're again still bleeding from the trade that you took that you lost, well, that's not going to help you in the next trade because you're going to have that trade is going to influence you on whether or not you're going to take that next trade, and that's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. Absolutely. So we have another question by Ed. Did either of you overtrade when you first started? It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if I would overtrade, but certainly there was this goal of mine to pass, right? So as a result of that, you do things, and I think before this session, I had alluded to this to Dee, and that was, once you get within $300 or $400 of passing the combine, again, now you're looking for that $400 trade to pass the combine.
Yeah.
You're not talking about the processes that led you to the point where you're within $300 to $400 of the trade.
Yeah,
So
you're just chasing the final
you're
300. It's like,
you're
yes,
chasing
come
the
on.
final 300.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is that I don't know. I was experiencing, I'd run up to the within 300, I'd lose 1,000. Run up to 300, lose 1,000. So it wasn't, and that's when I made that switch
Yeah.
where I said, okay, I'm going to remove all references of dollars on my accounts. All I can see is ticks. And I said, I think within 3 days of making that switch, I'm not looking or thinking about dollars. Past the combine, no problem. So
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's
I
amazing how the mind plays
oh
tricks
yeah,
on you.
yeah. It's completely mental. It's
Yeah,
just like one little switch that brings your focus away from the P&L into something else that you should be focusing on, it can make a world of difference, for sure. But I think the over trading side, did I ever have a day where I did like 100 trades or 50 trades? No. So never really, like for me, over trading is if I've done, 13 individual trades. Now, Topstep platform does take in scale-ins and scale-outs as separate trades. So a lot of the times, when I'm going through my whole stats thing, they're like, oh, but you did 24 trades. No, I didn't do 24 trades. I was doing multiple lots. So I started with 1, scaled in up to 3. And then once I got closer to the target, I was scaling out. So that's already 6. Okay, that's how the platform works. So, it would still be within 3 to 5 trades per day with scale-ins and scale-outs. So, if I don't want to do that and I'm more scalpy, obviously I will take quicker profits, but I will still be scaling in and out. So my idea of overtrading would be if I go, okay, I've done 13 trades today. And that would be on different products. It's not going to be one product where I just click, click, click. It's not working. Click. Oh, that one worked. Oh, click. No, it's like a couple of trades on copper, a couple of trades on gold, maybe a couple of trades on RBOB, maybe a couple of trades here, a couple of trades there, and then after a while, after like 10 trades, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of trades. So to me, that would be like a lot of trading. But most people are like, click, click, click. Within an hour, they're like already in 15 trades deep on the day. To me, that's increasing risk. So every time you open a trade, you are exposed to risk. So how many times in a day are you opening a trade and exposing yourself to risk? So the more times you open a trade, you're increasing risk with each and every trade. So if you're trading 50 trades a day, you've increased your risk intraday 50 times because you have no ability to know whether it's going to work or not. We're just relying on probabilities. So what happens on a bad day when all 50 trades lose? Because that could happen. What happens then? Then you have a bloody disaster, yeah? And that's where you're like, oh, wow, I've lost my account.
Right.
That's how it happens. You lose control of yourself. The day doesn't go well. You keep going. You have no off switch, no stopping point. And then disaster ensues. And people are like, oh, boo-hoo, what happened? The markets happened. We have increased volatility now. VIX, like yesterday when I was doing ES and a bit of ES analysis, the VIX was at 26. That's ludicrously high historically. It's like that brings completely crazy ranges with it. Yeah. And if you've never seen that, and if you don't know how to grapple with the high volatility environment, it is going to decimate you completely. Like you'll be like, what the hell happened? Somebody who used 20 points in NQ before, 20 points, right? Not ticks, but points. So let's say 80 ticks, right? 80 ticks is nothing in this environment on NQ. Nothing. You're going to be in for like 5 seconds. Not even that. So, volatility is beautiful, but you need to know how to navigate it. And, tiny little stops, unless you're a super scalpery, it's probably not going to be where it's at, right? You want your trades to last longer. That has to come with a stop loss size of a certain size.
Mm-hmm. And I also like, I think one of the ways that allowed you, I guess, to some degree, to trade longer is to move up a time frame.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Stop staring at the 30-second chart.
At a 1 minute chart or a 2 minute chart, right?
15
maybe
seconds.
Move up to 5 or 10 or 15 minute chart.
Yeah. I actually moved someone from my VIP. He was only doing 1 and 5 minutes. And I said, look, do 5 and 15.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, I can hold trades longer. And I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah, my combination is 15 and 2. 2 minute is my entry chart, and then 15 is my management.
Yeah.
And then once I get within 10% of the target, I like you heard me say that tip the doorman.
Tip the doorman. That's right. It's again another great saying. Tip the doorman. So it's not like you're taking the trade off early. You're tipping the doorman. It's like completely different in your mind.
Right? Yeah. Well, once I feel like I've reached my target, right? Whatever my outreach or target was, then I don't want to overstay my welcome. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm only going to pay the doorman 10% to allow me to exit the door gracefully.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. L Par says, D, if gold pushes at 940 your time, do you see similar times for HDPL and RBOB? So RBOB, I don't tend to trade much during this time of day. My edge for RBOB is towards the later parts of the NYMEX session, not London. Copper and platinum, I mean, platinum to me looks short on the daily, so I wouldn't necessarily fight that. It's still inside the initial balance, and Asia had a massive move down. Sometimes that means they go into a mean reversion, but for now I just don't see enough evidence of them actually going into a proper mean reversion. They're just like spending time in the same area since before London opened. Literally, they spend like 2.5 hours, nearly 3 hours doing nothing. Copper looks interesting to me because it smashed through some of the higher time frame highs, and historically, no, hold on, I need copper. Let me change to my screen as well. So copper is more directional than some of the other markets, but look at this. So we had a high at 488.90. Yesterday we went above it. Now obviously you're always expecting a little bit of a sell-off whenever some sort of a high gets popped, so that's fine, but I do want to see if we can push this higher towards the 5 evens, because I think that's where some of the extra calls are located. Probably not today. I'm talking like a general setup. And a general direction that I'm looking for in copper. So basically a bit of a pullback, continuation, carry on into this wick from the daily chart candle yesterday, and then maybe get to today's ADRs at the very least at about 491s. That would be my plan. If anything changes intraday, if I see shorts stepping in, I'm not going to be stubbornly holding on to longs. I'm going to have a hypothesis that's going to tell me that, let's say once COMEX has been trading for a couple of hours, we see a reversal. I talk about the post NY cut here quite a bit. So, after 9 a.m. Central, there is a chance that things start to turn around, at least for a while. So there's like a sell-off thing. So I wouldn't be, if I see a sell-off around about that time, I will probably be booking my long trades if I'm in any. And if not, I'll be using a pullback to as an opportunity to go into another long. I wouldn't be going against that. But if at any time we open below value, over the next few days, or we start to see the calls being resistant, so you have call strikes, a bunch of them, we go up to there, we cannot break through, then we start to extend initial balance to the opposite side. That will be shorts in play. So again, I'm very much into the market generated information. I don't like to have too much of a bias, but I generally have an idea of what I want to see and what I don't want to see. And then I base my hypos on that. So yeah, if I'm not seeing anything super obvious, obviously I stay out because I don't want to be doing like low quality trades. And I want to have a full understanding of what's happening. And right now, copper, to me, still looks long. But I would need to see a little bit more commitment towards the long side. But platinum, quite the opposite. Platinum looks dead today. I mean, Asia did a very nice downward move. Platinum is also one of those directional products that rarely switches the whole direction intraday. It can happen, but usually what they do is they do maybe a bit of a pullback and then more shorts. On the daily, it looks very short, so maybe a test of VWAP at 98.7, 987, and then more shorts. So that's something I'll be looking for in platinum. But yeah, it looks very, very different to me. To me, copper and platinum are on the opposite side of things, and I'm going to show you that. So let's go platinum on this side. And let's also block things out. Does this look the same on the daily chart? This one went into a higher high. This one is in some sort of a downtrend, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, it's got a higher high here, but now we're really going into almost a bearish engulfing here. Whether that holds or not into the end of the day, that's a different thing. But yeah, really maybe a test of 971s where we have this volume POC. That could be an option. There's a bullish engulfing here, so some sort of a demand. but not up here. Like I would need it to get to some more relevant levels for further longs. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's night and day. I mean, you couldn't pick
Yeah.
a better opposing set of charts
Yeah.
here.
Both
So,
metals, but very different
yeah,
picture.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the power of market generated information rather than going, I'm bullish on all metals. You're like, yeah, but one looks more bullish than the other, doesn't it? So
Right.
it's like,
Yeah, you have to pick your spots.
yeah, you have to pick your spots from the larger time frame.
Yeah.
Implied D says, I'm normally asleep now. This is such a quality show. I'm an overtrader. Gonna just watch during the day. Excellent. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Yeah, very good to hear that. Dan Trader says, if I may play devil's advocate, whenever you're in the market, you're exposed to risk. What is the difference if it is one trade with a long duration compared to many scalps for a short time? Well, it's the round turns, right? So if you're doing 100 round turns per day, that's massively increasing your risk versus just one round turn, right? So you have less size. If you were to just say, oh yeah, how many times did I lose today? Let's say that none of your scalps are working out. So how many times did you lose compared to the person who just has one trade open? And usually on smaller size as well. So not only are scalpers trading with more size, they're also increasing risk in like so many different ways. So whenever you open up a new trade, that is extra risk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you agree, Ray? Am I on the right path there?
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. And I think also there's the mental capital aspect too, right?
yeah.
Right. I think there's a bit of fatigue,
A lot
in
of
managing
fatigue.
and watching scalp type trade,
Yeah, new
right?
trade, new
So
trade, new trade, new
yeah,
trade. It's always like more and more and more. Whereas when
yeah,
you're in with one trading idea, you know what you want from it. You
right.
know what should be the invalidation point, hopefully. And you're just running one trade. You can go do other things. Like I never feel really tired doing my DAX trades that are lasting for like 3 hours or more. But I feel knackered doing an RBOB for like an hour at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Like you
kind of
just
how
get
I felt with,
exhausted. You're like,
watching
wow.
NASDAQ or even working with
Yeah.
NASDAQ in any sort of degree. So
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't look like this at my age if I was a NASDAQ trader.
yeah,
I would look 100 years old. I would
yeah,
already be completely gray, even though I'm a little
yeah,
bit gray. But yeah, I would look like I'm 100 if I had to
right,
trade NASDAQ for 18 years.
right, right.
Maybe if I wrote an algorithm to do it for me, that
Yeah,
could work. But me
yeah,
actually sitting there clicking buttons and watching it,
yeah.
no thanks. No
Not for me.
thanks. Not for me, no. Do you guys do bonds? ZB will be in play next few days. I'm not a bonds trader, so one of the
They move
things.
pretty slow, don't they?
Well,
Bonds.
yes and no. There are
Yes,
times
no.
when we are talking about like monetary policies and stuff, and they
Yeah. Oh,
do
then it's
move a
volatility
lot.
appears. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will have, we have CPI, things like that that can impact the bond movement. But generally, bonds outside of that, they're more, to me, they're more like, options kind of products, right? You do an options trade and it doesn't really matter. Usually it's a market neutral strategy of some sort because, again, it doesn't move. But for intraday trading, I was never like I actually got put on a fixed income desk as my
Oh, wow.
first job. I went through their program, whatever. They're like, okay, and they wanted sort of spread traders as well. I wasn't a spread trader. I already came from the swing trading. I wanted to
Yeah.
be there to outperform the underlying, not just to kind of do arbitrage. And they put me on there, and I started watching it, did a couple of trades, and I was like, this is horrible. I was like, I can't be in this. This is like killing me, man. It's like
Yeah.
I've been in a trade for 3 hours. It's moved like 3 ticks. I
Yeah.
can't trade this. So the risk manager was like, okay. So maybe you're not a fixed income. I'm like,
Yeah.
definitely
Yes.
not.
That's
So
what
they
we
put
got.
me on ES desk. But
Oh, okay.
unfortunately back
Feel
then,
better.
ES wasn't moving that much. It was moving
Yeah.
like 20 ticks a day. It was 2013. So this was just like QE period where the movement was all locked down. And it was really, really quite painful. So I said, okay, this is better. But I don't know, like my euro dollar, where I came from, I was like, that moves a lot. So it was moving like 150 pips per day. And
Yeah.
suddenly I'm watching ES, crawling around at 26. And I'm like, No. So he said, okay, well, maybe we can put you on a commodities desk, maybe
Oh, okay.
crude oil. And as soon as I saw crude oil moving like 250, 300 ticks, I was like, yes,
Yeah,
this
this is
is
for me.
this is for me. And I can feel that some people who are going into equities, they find NASDAQ, they think the same way. So I do feel for them, like why they think that way. The problem that I have with NASDAQ is the intra-spazzy candle. So you
Yeah,
look at anything, it's just such a spastic movement.
yes,
And
yeah,
it at this point in time, it irks me. It
mhm,
brings bad trading decisions.
yeah,
It literally makes me so nervous to hold a trade. And this is
right,
coming from somebody who holds trades for 4 to 7 hours sometimes per day, right? So
yeah,
it just tells you how much mental capital you're actually exhausting by
yeah,
looking at something that just cannot hold a proper direction for longer than like 3 seconds.
right,
And for me, it's just not, no, it's not an exciting product. It's actually a product that causes me a lot of anxiety. So, and I
yeah,
don't like it. I don't want to trade like that. So,
yeah,
whoever likes NASDAQ, props to you. But
yeah,
I can't do the thing. I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'll do the reversal challenge on it. I'll do the reversal challenge.
yeah,
but that's it.
yeah,
Darth Buddha says ZB is 33 a tick. Bonds are risk off. Today indexes will moon and bonds will fall. Maybe. I am keeping an eye on DAX. So far, DAX is kind of trying to do a value acceptance trade. So let me change to my screen. This is a DAX chart. Excuse me. So basically, we opened below value and went into value acceptance. So, there is a chance that this rotates all the way up. We also had some volume POCs over the 4-week period. So, yeah, it's a good spot for my DAX, but I still don't like to trade it before a certain time of day. So maybe I want to see a bit of a pullback to the value low from the inside. So accept the value, pulls back down, maybe even down to VWAP, close to this POC, and then I will have my trade. But yes, I do agree that longs are in play, at least for now. So this is like a different product. So obviously I trade DAX, not ES. ES could look a little bit different. Let me see. Yeah, ES is just reaching its own value low from the London trading yesterday. Whereas DAX is showing more strength. So to me, DAX would be the play. Yeah, we'll see what happens. It is very possible that we do go into a... but you say risk off. If it's risk off, that means equity is down. So I'm just going to say that. Risk on is equities up. Yeah. Euro has been strong the last few days. Yep, I did see that. Even though I don't trade it, I did see that. Can I trade DAX and Topstep? No, but you can upvote it so that we can... Yes, here we go again. I wish. I've been campaigning for Eurex to come to Topstep for a while now, for like a year. They are apparently working on it. I don't exactly have all the information why it's not there anymore, why it's not there yet. But please upvote this, and they're still saying that it's coming. So at this point, I'm like, is it coming? I don't know.
mm-hmm.
I wish, because DAX is my absolute favorite. I love the thing. Ed says, seems like if a prop firm wanted to teach beginners trading, they would limit the size and number of trades per day. But I imagine they love that revenue stream for resets. Well, look, it's not a charity, okay? I always say this is a business. Like many people come into the market, they're like, "Oh, I want to make millions." But yeah, why is this firm making money from traders? Because 90% of traders fail. You will be stupid not to take advantage of that. Like, I'm sorry, but coming from the business world, I can absolutely see how that is an amazing revenue stream. Now, Topstep is doing things to limit the amount of resets that you buy. They're the only people doing that. Right now, you can't buy more than 10 combines at a time, and you can't be doing multiple resets per day. Like, what else do you want from a firm? They are a business. They're not a charity, okay? And same goes for people who are, really against courses. It's like, okay, you can sit and listen for a 4-hour waffling webinar on YouTube, or you can have a structured course. Which one is going to teach you better? Something that you have to reverse engineer from like a millions of daily live streams that you're going to watch, or something that breaks down all the concepts in a really specific way.
Yeah.
I know what I prefer, right? And I have paid for courses before. I have paid for an apprenticeship as well, where you had somebody guiding the way. And I never shied away from it. Back in the day, we also had Market Profile Lab. That was Hoag's coaching session. That was a paid-for service. It wasn't free back in the day. But now they've come to a point where they can provide a lot of free content. However, it's still not a charity. Yes, we will take the revenue stream from resets, because even with all the breaks in place, people are still doing stupid things. And if you can't keep your mouse over or your fingers off a mouse, yeah, you should pay for it. Like, at least it's less than you're going to pay at a brokerage. Even if you buy 10 combines and do multiple resets per month, it's still going to be cheaper. So please don't go, Ed, don't be going, oh, they should be limiting our trade size. Like, do you want MP to come and hold your hand while you do it as well? Would that work? Like, come on, like, be realistic. Like, how much more do you want from a prop firm?
I do think that on a platform, I mean, they already provide you features to lock yourself out.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what I said.
Limits,
yeah, that's what I said. Do you want MP to come and hold your hand as you click the lockout button? Like, how far does this, nannying traders go? Like, we're giving you everything in our power to prevent over trading, and people are still going, yeah, I guess you guys really love your revenue stream. It's like, just go away. It's like, really, just don't. All right. Daryl Lamaster says, just coming on, what do you trade again that you are able to hold for longer times? So copper, sometimes crude oil if it's in a good position, platinum, Ray trades gold. So so let me ask you a question, Ray, though. Because for gold, I tried holding some trades for like past 2 hours. Didn't go very well. So how do you deal with that?
I mean, when I say long, I'm talking 30, 45, maybe up to an hour. I don't ever rarely hold trades for 2 hours or more.
I see. Okay. I get it.
So it usually hits my target in that period of time.
Okay.
Right. So I have a kind of intermediate target, not necessarily on a daily time frame or 4-hour time frame. I may have some 30-minute zone.
That makes sense.
Prior settlement, whatever.
Yeah. So again, different traders, different expectations from a trade. So basically,
I do a lot of IB extension type of trade. With gold.
Yeah. So when I'm in on those, I don't like holding it for like 3 hours. Like, I would like to either get in from like some sort of a swing and then already be in as it's extending. If I'm not, that tends to be a little bit more difficult, and that is when I wouldn't hold, because it's effectively a breakout trade, isn't it? Of sorts. It's an IB break, but it's still a breakout.
Similar to what you had mentioned earlier with crude oil, right? I don't know, I can't remember what day it was. I think it was maybe a couple of days ago. Gold had sold off.
Yes, I do.
It had come down to maybe some 4-hour daily level.
Yeah.
So I used that level as kind of a springboard for a long and get the other direction. So New York had sold off. Asia was kind of hovering, and then we had basically a repair day.
Yeah.
That followed.
Structure repair day. Yeah. Nice. Right. Good trade. Yeah. So So for the longer term trades, I think copper is probably one of the better ones to hold for hours. I also hold DAX for usually 2 to 3 hours, sometimes longer, but most of the time I will hold it for a couple of hours. Not in the last week or so, because it's gone a little crazy. So like you say, my target's already reached, like even if they're, big targets. Yesterday I ran one of my trades was a DAX long, and I was aiming for a 150 tick target, thinking, that's going to take a long time. Went to make a coffee.
Got back.
Came back, and it was already at 120 ticks. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take that. Thank you. Exactly. Yeah, I'm not going to wait for another 30 ticks, even though it went all the way up to like 220. But I was like, this is way faster than I thought. So it's just going to, see money, take money, right?
Right.
Smart Chart has a question. How do I create a profitable strategy for myself? When I back test, I'm profitable. When I forward test, I'm losing money. Please tell me how you found out profitable strategy for myself. So back testing for me is kind of only to find like functionality of what needs to be done. Like, is a level working and by how much? There is a thing called over optimizing. So this is probably what's happening with you. And over optimization means that you take a period and you over optimize your stops, your targets, your times and durations and everything. And then you try and do the same thing in the forward tests and it's not working. Why? Because you focused on one part and it's too optimized. So you've gone too deep down the rabbit hole. I would suggest that you take the back test with a pinch of salt. So use the levels that you've used. I don't know what you're using, but basically there are strategies that are pretty good, like when you look at them in hindsight, but then in real time they don't really work. Typical thing would be something like Elliott waves, that they're so clear in hindsight, aren't they? But there's very few people who can tell you without sort of overpainting that there's an A, B, or C, or whatever number it is on the wave. And then they always go, when they get it wrong, what I have a problem with Elliott waves is that they're like, oh no, that wasn't a C, that was actually an A, because we're looking at, and I'm like, you can't go back, like if you... if you're making decisions in real time, there's no going back. Like if your strategy cannot tell you intraday, like what is actually happening right now, it's not a good strategy. It's just not. So two problems. You're either over optimizing the back tests or you're using a slightly flawed strategy. So one of the two. What I would suggest is to sit intraday. Don't do trading immediately. Observe in real time. There's absolutely no, no substitute for observing something in real time and getting experiential data that way. So there's a place for a back test, but it can go horribly wrong if you haven't actually observed and lived through the trade. Living through the trade will give you more experience than any back test will. Well, Ray, what are your thoughts on this? Do you have any advice here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. I think, I think sometimes in real time, especially in say instruments like Nasdaq, right? You have a level, but then it sweeps through that level and continues in the same direction, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of liquidity grabs that happen. So if you're so optimized that, well, I'm going to have my stop at this such and such a level, well, an instrument like Nasdaq, it kind of has a mind of its own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, maybe over optimizing your strategy is probably, and having, like you said, time in front of the market and looking and watching how these candles are forming. I think will probably give you some data to show that maybe that how I have this set up may not be conducive to the type of instrument I'm trading.
Yeah. Yeah, so behavior of the instrument as well, very important. All right, so
Yeah.
I have a little long copper here. We are sort of hanging above the initial balance, and the initial balance is right here. Let me put a little thing on. There it is. Yeah, so we kind of went down almost to... am I sharing my screen? I am. So we kind of went down almost to the initial balance, but then we sort of stopped there, and then this next candle was pushing higher. So I'm going to try running a little long as a way of a value acceptance, because that's where it is, even though it opened right on the value low and then pushed in. So initial balance extension is telling me that there's still some buyers here. I want to see what happens with this HVL. Obviously, we have a gamma wall up at 485. That could be a problem. But if we could get at least to value high, that would be kind of like my loose first target. In fact, I'm going to go in another contract so that I can take some off there. And then, the final target, if we break through this high of, I think that was Asia high, and basically grab the target, I would be perfectly fine with that. If not, if we return to the initial balance, that would be my invalidation point, and ultimately my stop loss is just underneath there. So that would be it. That would be trade idea failed, right?
Yeah. Looks
So yeah,
nice.
copper looks good for longs for now, and
Yeah, it's
let's
above
see
our
what they
VWAP.
do. Yeah.
Hmm.
Strength at VWAP, obviously a little bit of drama whilst we
Yeah.
were doing that, but yeah, generally copper is so directional. I mean, I do love copper. I've got to say it's like my favorite little baby. All right, I think we're gonna wrap it up for the day and let Ray get some sleep.
Yeah.
Ray, thank you so much for being here. Always
No, thank
appreciate it.
you
It's
for
been a
having me.
while. Yeah, I've been kind of in the whole rabbit hole of selling the house and stuff. So, you know, it's been a bit crazy around here, but very good to see you. Nice to catch up with you. Tell me, where can people find you? Do you have any VIP updates
Yeah,
when you do your classes?
yeah, I mean, a couple of places. I mean, if you're part of Topstep, I am in the Coach Ray's room in the mornings, especially, and then I also have a Monday through Thursday coaching session from was it 6 p.m. Central Time for an hour, and then yeah, those are probably the two main times that you can find me. So in the morning time, I do. I'm available in Coach's Ray's room on Topstep, and then I have a daily um, coaching session, market review Q&A session, Monday through Thursday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central.
Lovely. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna give the Discord last link. Christ, last what? Yeah, more coffee required.
Yeah.
So yeah, Discord link is in the chat. That's where you're gonna find Coach Ray every single day. Well, Monday through Thursday, right? And
Yes.
you have your lessons there. Obviously, you will see him on the main broadcast as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, on occasion. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically we have VIP drop-ins. So we're all
Yes.
doing that
VIP
now.
drop-ins.
Yeah. I'm also going to be on for a little while. I think Back to the Futures today, I believe. I don't know. It's either Lunchbox Trading or Back to the Futures, one of the two. I have to check my schedule. But yeah, great to have you here. Thanks everyone for being here. We really appreciate it. Yeah, let's see what the markets do. It all looks pretty set for some kind of a recovery, maybe. So very exciting times. Yeah, this has been the London session on Topstep TV with Coach Ray and myself, Marcus Stalker D. Thank you so much again. We will see you again next time. Take care.